Do I think your team is a Super Bowl contender this year? Let's go ahead and find out. Hey guys, Jason here. So, long time no see when it comes to NFL content. I know, I wanted to do a little bit of testing with other variations of content and I've loved it. But now that we're getting back into the football season, we're going to do football content and that other content as well. So I figured no better way to get back into football content than with a good old tier list. So let's go ahead and switch on over to my tier list. So this tier list is broken down into a few categories over here. We got our Super Bowl contenders, our playoff locks, likely playoff teams, possible playoff teams or bubble teams, need a miracle, and top draft pick contenders. So, without further ado, I think these are pretty self-explanatory. Let's go ahead and start off with the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I am going to be a little bit blunt up front. I have been following a little bit, but I haven't followed every single detail when it comes to NFL stuff. This offseason, I feel like I've just been a little bit off this offseason. So this is going to be kind of a gut feeling alongside what I know. I might be missing a few things. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing anything that could really make a big impact on these rankings. But let's go ahead and start with the Arizona Cardinals. I feel like they made some improvement. I feel like you're going to see improvement out of Marvin Harrison Jr. I like them as a possible playoff team. Do I think that they're going to be there? Maybe, maybe not. It's possible, but it's going to need some help. All right, moving on now to the Atlanta Falcons. It's going to be very tough. The NFC is a very tough division, or a tough conference this year. The NFC South, I think, is going to be the best division in football. You got the Panthers, you got the Saints. I don't know about the Saints, but you got the Panthers, the Falcons, the Buccaneers, all going to be contending this year. I think the Falcons are a likely playoff team. I don't know if they win the division. I just feel like that's Tampa's division to win. And certainly, Atlanta could miss the playoffs, but I think they're more likely to make it than not at this point. Moving on to the Baltimore Ravens, where else am I going to put them? You got Lamar Jackson. You got a powerful team. I don't really feel like they had too many big departures this year. So I like them as a potential Super Bowl contender this year. I think that they could really go either way, but they're going to make the playoffs. Whether or not they make the Super Bowl, I don't know, but they're in the mix. Buffalo, same deal. They've struggled to get it done. But again, I don't believe they had that many big departures this offseason, unless I'm missing something. Like I said, correct me down in the comments if that's the case. But again, I really feel like the Bills have just always been on the verge for so long that it's right to mark them as a contender. They're definitely going to make the playoffs, though. Carolina, I have them as a possible playoff team. I still feel like there's a little bit of growth that needs to happen in Carolina, but I feel like they made a lot of good moves this offseason. Bryce Young, after coming back from the benching, started looking a lot better. So it is certainly possible, but Carolina, I feel like they still have a little bit of work to go. But again, they're right on that cusp. They're right on the fringe, in my opinion. Now, as for the Chicago Bears, this might be a little controversial. I don't know how I feel about Ben Johnson as a head coach. I like the offense he was running in Detroit. I do feel like there's a little bit more development that needs to happen with Caleb Williams. I'm not fully sold on him yet, so I am going to put him as a needs a miracle. Caleb Williams did have some flashes. I don't know if he's ready to take that next step, though. So I really feel like they are the weakest link in a strong NFC North. Cincinnati, they've really fallen from grace. They're a possible playoff team in my book. Can they do it? Sure. Will they do it? I don't know. The AFC, again, is getting pretty stacked with teams like the Bills, Ravens. The Steelers had a really good offseason. The Chiefs, the Chargers, the Raiders made some good sneaky moves there. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are going to be vying for the playoff spots, and it feels like, to me, Cincinnati's almost like the odd team out. Cleveland, need I say more? It's a factory of sadness. You signed Myles Garrett, yes, but again, your quarterback room was essentially a soap opera for a good few months there in the offseason. Yeah, you cut it down, but I'm not sold on this Browns team at all, and there's nothing leading me to say that this team is going to be any different. Now, Dallas, as much as I'd love to put you down here because of the Micah Parsons trade, I still got to put you at needs a miracle. You're not going to be vying for a top draft pick. You're going to be maybe a 6 to 7, maybe 8 win team this year. You're going to be somewhere in that range. You're going to be close. You're going to be on the bubble, but I feel like you really need a lot of help to make that next step to be a realistic possibility when your conference has teams like Carolina, like Tampa Bay, like Atlanta, Washington, Philadelphia. There's too much power, too much firepower in the conference for me to say that Dallas is a possible playoff team. Denver, I have you as a possible playoff team. I'm a little bit reserved just because I know that quarterbacks especially tend to get hit with the sophomore slump. Look at CJ Stroud. His rookie year, absolutely electric. His sophomore year, he kind of took a step back a little bit. The team as a whole took a step back. I hope the same doesn't happen with Denver, but it very well could. And again, they were kind of one of those on-the-bubble teams that I don't know how they're going to stack up in a loaded AFC. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and put Detroit there. Even though they don't have Ben Johnson, they got too much firepower, and that defense is going to be so strong up front that it's going to be immense to beat them. Alright, Green Bay made a huge trade just before recording this video. They are officially a playoff lock in my book. They might move up to a contender, but again, I feel like there's a lot of growth that still needs to happen with this team for them to be that Super Bowl contender. But with Micah Parsons, they're going to make the playoffs. There's not a single doubt in my mind. Houston, I feel like it's time for a rebound. You're a likely playoff team. I feel like CJ Stroud's going to bounce back. The team as a whole, I think, is really going to have that big bounce back from last year. I feel like last year was just a bad fluke for them. So I really like this team. I think that they're going to be a likely playoff team. Indianapolis, I was floating between these two. I feel like you have a good receiving core that's going to put you as a place where you need a miracle. I could see you fighting for a top draft pick, though, because, again, you didn't really have a strong offseason. You really didn't look very well. Your quarterback room has been an absolute mess where you go from Anthony Richardson to Daniel Jones, and you're, like, rotating. So, I mean, it's a mess. You're probably the lowest team on needs a miracle. You're probably the closest to fighting for a top draft pick. Jacksonville, again, similar deal. You're going to be in that needs a miracle camp for me just because I really think that when it comes to your team, Trevor Lawrence really has not been living up to the hype that we were hoping, that we were expecting out of him. So I don't know that he's going to be the guy as of right now. Things could change. Travis Hunter could be amazing on the offensive side of the ball and give Trevor Lawrence that boost he needs. But as of right now, I'm not sold that Jacksonville is going to be a great team. Kansas City, I'm tired of you, but you got to go up there anyway. Let's move on. Chargers, you're going to be a playoff team. How far you go, I don't know. I mean, again, I like your roster construction. I feel like you made a lot of progress last year despite the struggling wide receiver room. Again, I feel like you're going to be one of those teams. It's going to be a sneaky team to watch. It's going to be good. Going to make the playoffs early. I don't know how far you're going to go there. Now for the other LA team. This might be a bit controversial, but I have them as a playoff lock. Think about it. Your offense, you got Matthew Stafford, Kyron Williams, and then you have a couple of strong tight ends with Tyler Higbee and a couple of others. And then you also have Puka Nacua opposite Devontae Adams. That is, I mean, yeah, people will say Devontae Adams is aging, but at the same time, I feel like part of the problem last year was Rodgers was trying to feed Devontae at times in situations where there was no real good option. I still feel like he's got it in the tank, and then that defense, oh my word, that defense started really coming together last year. They didn't really have any big departures. They're going to take that next step. I would watch out for the Rams. Raiders, I was talking up about you guys earlier. I still think you're in that needs a miracle camp, though. I don't know how I feel about you guys. I feel like you're really going to be a boom or bust team. You're either going to be that team that just comes out of nowhere and does amazing, or you're going to go ahead and fall back to irrelevancy and you're going to waste the career of Ashton Genty. I really don't see much of an in-between there, and I don't really feel confident that you're going to be that boom this year. I feel like you might need another year of growth to do that, so I have you in needs a miracle this year. As for Miami, you're a possible playoff team. Again, it's all going to depend on the health of Tua. If Tua can stay healthy, you guys are a likely playoff team. But again, he's dealt with the injury bug in his career, and if he can't stay healthy, you don't really have a bona fide number two, at least that I've seen, that can really take that team to the next level. Minnesota, you're going to be a playoff lock. I don't know how I feel necessarily about you guys taking that huge next step. Again, I think your starting quarterback this year is going to be J.J. McCarthy. I feel like there's a lot of talent around him to make you guys a playoff team. I don't know that you guys are going to be necessarily a Super Bowl contender, though. Again, these lists will change about every quarter of the season. We'll go ahead and re-update this list, so things could change. But this is just my initial feeling on these teams this year. New England, you were going to be in this top draft pick fighting for category, but after your draft, you really moved the needle on that. Do I think you're a possible playoff team? Not necessarily. I feel like, again, with a lot of these other teams that are down here, there's a lot of growth that needs to occur. But, again, New England made all the right moves in this offseason. I really liked what they did in the draft. They had an incredible draft. So I really feel like this team is making steps in the right direction. I just feel like they just need more time. Yeah, let's go ahead and slide New Orleans down there. You didn't really have much of a quarterback situation. You don't even have your rookie starting this year in Tyler Show. I don't know. I don't really feel like this. I just don't get the vibes from this team, you know? I don't get the vibes that this team is going to be a viable team that's going to be fighting week in and week out. I feel like they're going to be a team that's going to be a nuisance, but they're going to be a nuisance and still lose. The Giants, I'm floating between these two for you, between needs a miracle and possible playoff teams. I might be a little bit nice and put you as a possible playoff team. I really feel like there's chance. There's definitely a chance there, but you guys really got to take that next step. Again, you're probably one of the weakest possible playoff teams in my book, just given that I know that you have a tendency to struggle. It's really going to come down to quarterback play. Can your quarterback effectively play what he needs to play? Can he effectively find his targets and make the right moves? That is my big concern for the Giants, and I don't know how it's going to go this year. The Jets, you're in a similar boat. It really comes down to your quarterback play again, and can your team essentially rebuild the culture that it had before Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers came in, Robert Saleh said, yeah, go ahead, Rodgers, you do whatever you want, man, I don't care. And that led to Rodgers running a toxic culture that kind of rotted the team from the inside out. The question is going to be, can the Jets restore that culture, and will Justin Fields be able to play effectively and play well like he did in his appearances with the Steelers last year? Again, I don't know. You're one of the weaker possible playoff teams, but I could see it. Philadelphia, you just won the Super Bowl. You didn't lose anything big, except for a couple of players you lost, but nothing really big enough for me to say you're not fighting for a repeat. Pittsburgh. You're going to be a likely playoff team. I'm floating between playoff lock and likely for you. Again, though, it's really going to come down to, can Aaron Rodgers play well within a disciplined system? If he can, the Steelers are going to be lights out. If he can't, then you're going to have the Steelers of last year and the year before that and the year before that all over again, where quarterback play ruins the team. The defense is strong. The defense got even stronger, I think, with the addition of re-signing TJ Watt, extending Cam Hayward with an agreement there that's kind of in place, trading for Jalen Ramsey. Sorry about that. Trading for Jalen Ramsey and really just bolstering that defense. I really feel it was a huge thing for the Steelers, but it's really going to all come down to the quarterback play. But I see the floor is higher and the ceiling is higher as well than some of these other teams. Seattle, vibe check. I'm putting you as a possible playoff team. Again, the NFC is going to be a bloodbath. Again, look at the teams we already have up in Super Bowl contenders. Lions, Eagles. We got the Packers, Rams, and Vikings as locks. Falcons as a likely team. And you still have teams like the Niners, the Commanders, and the Buccaneers to go. I think it's going to be too crowded in the NFC that Seattle might get lost as that one odd team out. San Fran, you're in a similar boat. Can you rebound from last year? Last year was atrocious for you. Can you guys rebound despite essentially a major retool? I think you guys moved on from, 17 players? So can you guys retool effectively and get back to where you were before? I don't know. I'm not sold. But I do find it as maybe slightly more likely than not that you guys make the playoffs, but again, you're very much on the bubble. Tampa Bay, you're likely making it in the playoffs. The only reason I don't have you as a lock is because your division has gotten so much better this offseason. Again, you had the Falcons that were getting better at the end of last year. Carolina was looking good at the end of last year as Bryce Young came back. And the Saints, they're going to be a thorn in your side. I don't want to discount them, but let's discount them for a second here. But Tampa Bay, again, you are still, I think, the best team. But can you maintain your dominance when you have two teams that are hungry, haven't done much for a while, especially Carolina? They haven't done much since Cam Newton. They're really hungry. Can you fight them off effectively? And that's where I'm not sure. I still think you guys likely sneak in, but I'm not putting you as a lock because of that. Tennessee, I have you as a likely team. Again, you're on the lower end of likely, but again, I do like Cam Ward. I like that draft pick. I like what you guys have done. It's really just going to depend on how well the team can play as a whole. I feel like Tennessee is that team that's sliding under the radar, so I'm not sure necessarily how I feel about them, but I feel like they have a chance to potentially make it in as a possible playoff team. And last but not least, we got the Commies. Y'all are Super Bowl contenders. Yeah, it might be a bit top-heavy with 6 Super Bowl contenders, 3 from each conference, but still, Washington, how can I not? If Jaden Daniels does not have a sophomore slump, this team is going to be scary. They just re-signed Scary Terry. They made a couple of acquisitions. I think they acquired Deebo Samuel early in the offseason. There is a lot of potential for this team to just boom this year. And I like what they got going in the Capitol. Alright, so this over here is my final preseason tier list of how I think teams will fare this year. How will this go? Will I be completely wrong? Probably, but you never know. I always like to do this. And remember, we will be doing another one of these somewhere around week 4, week 5, somewhere in that range, just to update this tier list. And yeah, if you're ready for some more NFL content, or you like some of the other content I've done, huge shout out to Audience for the growth recently as well, especially on that Bob Nutting video. Just absolutely exploded on me. Huge shout out to Audience that tuned into that one. I love you guys. And with that, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out and have a good one.